Cyber briefing for Tuesday, the 23rd of April. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Quite a lot to go through today, so if you want the details, I suggest you have a look at the links that we'll post after this briefing. A lot of interesting stuff, but nothing I think that you need to leap out of bed and start worrying about that. So, following on from recent or recent-ish attacks on password managers, there are some very convincing scams going around looking to get users to part with their master passwords. LastPass is suffering from a series of scams in this space at the moment. Relatively sophisticated scams based around, starting with phishing, unsurprisingly, aiming then to get users to end up on a spoofed website that requires them to put in their master password. Now, some of these attacks are also started as voice calls, vishing. So the basic story behind it is that they claim that there's been an unauthorized access to your account, blah blah blah. They then ask you to eventually ask you to go to a support site to deal with this potential issue. The support site, of course, being fake, and they then grab your master password as you log in. So again, a combination of approaches should improve matters. So LastPass, by the way, are busily taking down websites that are hosting these things. But spoofed websites will appear as fast as they're probably actually appear faster than they can be taken down. So watch out for this sort of stuff. Also, I would say definitely educating users to be skeptical about these things, and educating users about how password manager vendors, organizations actually work, is a good thing. And the usual stuff around protecting the accounts, I think, will be important. Definitely make sure that you for your master password, you're backing it up with at least some form of strong 2FA, hopefully not text messages. Because and yes, they can be spoofed, and if these attacks are being done in real time, then yes, they can grab that and then log into the real site using the information that you've given them or you put into their fake site. However, it does reduce the ease, and it's an extra level of complexity associated with these things. So have a read. It's a good article. Russia's APT28 has been identified as exploiting a Windows print spooler flaw to deploy goose egg malware, going back to potentially as early as April 2019, although there's stronger evidence that from June 2020 they've been deploying malware in this particular way. The flaw which is being exploited is a privilege escalation flaw, CVE 2022 38028 with a CVSS score of 7.8. It is worth noting that despite the fact that the patch has been out for a long time for this, there are still, certainly over the last couple of years, a lot of organizations that have been hit by this. So I would take this opportunity to remind everyone that good patch management is really important. Good vulnerability management is even more important. They're not the same. And if you want to know the difference, feel free to ask us. Nespresso Domains Um, okay, so Nespresso domains have been used to redirect users to malware sites. So um, the Nespresso domain has had an open direct vulnerability, so a redirect vulnerability, which has basically meant it's possible for attackers to set up an environment in which the web protection solutions have not been identifying that the end site you end up on is in fact a malicious site. So effectively, this is just another phishing-based campaign. However, the infrastructure behind it is set up in such a way that Nespresso's legitimate website has been used to redirect connections to a spoofed Microsoft sign-in site, but because the connection appears to come from a hijacked Nespresso site, it doesn't trigger security warnings. So the Nespresso URL then delivers a malicious HTML file doctored to look like a Microsoft login page, aiming to capture victims' credentials. As a user, you need to be just very cautious about what it is you click on. Keep an eye on where the URLs you're actually going to in the browser bar. I know that some of this stuff can be spoofed and it isn't 100%, but at least if you're applying a modicum of thought to this, you're going to catch more attempted compromise than if you don't. So definitely worth looking at. Also, you've got to bear in mind that if you appear to be going via an Nespresso site, if you can catch the network traffic, if you're going via an Nespresso site whilst you are responding to an email allegedly from an employee of the Bank of America asking you to check your Microsoft sign-in activity, something is clearly wrong. This method of avoiding getting or triggering detection issues is I think it's not a particularly sophisticated, but it does show a good deal of understanding around how defenders work from the point of view of the attacker. The other thing is, of course, if you're responsible for a website, be certain that you are thinking about the OWASP top 10 and other relatively simple to defend against attacks in your code. It shouldn't be possible for the legitimate Nespresso website to redirect you to a malicious website in the background. It appears that some quite legitimate organizations have been using, either deliberately or unknown to them, have been using Korean programmers, or in this case animators, in part of a scam. So a compromised server has a misconfigured cloud server has been shown that outsourced work from the BBC, Amazon, and HBO has been being undertaken by animators in North Korea. So of course, as always, you need to be careful about who, if you are dealing with outsourcing, if you're using third parties as part of your supply chain, you do need to understand who these people are. So third party supply chain security is important. I suspect that this would also constitute breach of some sorts of sanctions, although I can't be absolutely certain. So I don't know exactly what sanctions there are against North Korea at this particular time. But I think it makes for interesting reading, and I think it definitely demonstrates that industry in the West is not always properly on top of ways in which malicious governments can make money out of them. You can be absolutely certain that if it's in North Korea, if these people are in North Korea, yes, they may be making money for themselves, but the actual, the core of it is funding the North Korean governments with all of that particular government's aspirations. So watch out. And whilst we're off in that part of the world, interesting article in Dark Reading talking about certain nations which are now requiring cybersecurity individuals, consultants, and or cybersecurity firms to be licensed. Certain nations, including Malaysia, Singapore, and Ghana, are requiring certain certification and licensing in order for companies to undertake work in that particular country. It is. I can see where this idea. I can see where it's coming from. And there are certain certifications and licenses that you need in order to do certain sorts of work. In the UK, I think the Financial Services Authority insists that certain sorts of testing on on licensed financial organisations in the UK has to be done in a particular way by certified organisations and so on and so forth. It is interesting as to whether this should be mandated or whether it should be down to the companies to make their own decisions about this sort of stuff. And especially in countries where there is not I was going to say countries where they're lacking protections of freedom of speech. So it sounds a little bit like the UK at the moment. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Makes interesting reading. If you have comments on this or thoughts or particularly think this is a good or bad thing, do feel free to stick your comments against the post for this briefing. Quick update on the US FISA Section 702 snooping laws. They've been passed. So the US can eavesdrop and basically undertake surveillance not only on foreign citizens, but also on US citizens associated with foreign citizens that have come to the attention of the US authorities, all without a warrant, all done in the background. Very wide-ranging surveillance laws that have been passed there. So if you don't particularly want to come to the attention of the US authorities, don't communicate with anybody in the US. And then finally from me, I'm not serious, finally from me, an article I found in HelpNet Security is very interesting. It's talking about there is a general trend that people doubt their ability to spot AI-generated deepfakes. Now, why does this matter? Well, because this is tied up with an absolutely massive campaign across the globe by malicious states attempting to manipulate public opinion in the US, because there's a US election coming up. It is also going on in the UK here. So deep fakes in an election year are going to be a particular area of concern. All I can say is certainly deep fake graphics are generally identifiable, and I think people will get more sophisticated in their ability to spot them. If you look at special effects from the 1960s or 70s or even 80s, Right now, you look at them and go, "Oh, that is so obviously been faked." In movies or TV films or whatever. But then you look at modern, stuff that's modern, and when CGI became the way in which to do special effects for a while, you look at it and go, "Oh my god, that's just so amazing." And now you look at it and go, "Yeah, all right, it's CGI. It's kind of cool. I like watching it, but it's CGI." And I think that we're at the same sort of place with certainly deep fake imagery at the moment. If you look at these, real person versus not real person sites, most people will get them right and pick the deep fake, pick the fake, the AI generated. However, if you are expecting to see, say, Joe Biden talking about something, or Donald Trump talking about something, or Keir Starmer or Rishi or whoever, you're not in the mindset of looking for these things. So, can we trust anything that we see on the internet anymore? I never really did trust stuff that I saw on the internet, and especially after the last few years of otherwise respectable news organisations filling the internet with the most ridiculous, biased, and quite frankly often fake information. I'm not entirely sure I trust anything anybody says anyway if I've seen it on the internet. So, up to you. Makes an interesting read. Definitely one to think about. And as I said before, on a personal level, if you are making opinions about how you want to vote or what the opinions of particular politicians or parties are, don't use social media in order to form your opinions. Social media is full of idiots. And at the moment, as per the earlier article, it's full of Russians, Chinese, and North Koreans and Iranians all trying to mess with your head. And on that cheery note, I shall call it a day for today. I hope you have a good Tuesday. I certainly shall, because we've got a new pizza van that's coming to the village on Tuesdays now. So, pizzas for me tonight. Have a great day, and I will speak to you